It starts directed at me, but we can open up to more people. For Serge, or basically anyone else who has been a barista, but now is living their best life ever, or working their best job ever. Then there's some background here. I'm wanting to quit my job as a barista, and I cannot handle shift work anymore. Hashtag autistic life.
Yep.
I enjoy the actual work, but not enough staff or on shift, and not knowing when you're working next week sucks. So yeah, that's like the welcome to working in restaurants and sort of that life. It's not very structured, and it's if you need structure, that's terrible. What do you advise on how to get a more organized job? I have experience from university organizing big events and much rather be using, and I'm from Scotland. So, Scotland. Maybe my voice got too low there. So my transition from food service to tech into being a performer was kind of weird. And I don't recommend everybody take my path. I had some money saved up. I applied to be an English teacher in Japan. I did not get the job. I went and traveled a whole bunch and made the decision to get into tech. And rather than doing like courses or anything like that, I did the white guy privilege sort of thing where I just started networking and then got in as a like low-level QA person. It's like, hey, I'm going to teach myself all the code on the side. I'm going to be really committed to this. I'm going to start going to events. I'm going to like...
Well, I didn't know that's how you did it, but please continue. I'm excited to hear the rest of the story.
Yeah, I did a whole bunch of like online boot camp stuff of like trying to learn how to get into programming. I started going to shared workspaces. They'd have like nights, like code nights or something like that.
Cool.
So we'd go to a pub, we'd hang out, we'd work on personal projects, we'd talk about the things we're learning, and I'd be like, actually, I have a funny story from that. So I'm at this code night, and I'm learning like really simple stuff. Like I'm doing Python, and I want to make a program that teaches people what the probability of needing a 5th round in a Magic tournament is based on the number of players that you have. And I say, hey, can somebody come over here and review my code? I'm having an issue with this particular thing. And the first thing they say is, Serge, you need glasses.
Oh.
And I'm like, what do you mean you need glasses? And I'm like, well, look at how big you've made the text on the screen. I can't actually read everything you're doing at once because the font is so zoomed in.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm like, no, I don't need glasses. I have it that big because it hurts my eyes otherwise. And they're like, that means you need glasses. And then they're like, all right, Serge, if you don't need glasses, what's the score of the hockey game over there? And I'm like, okay. And I was working at a restaurant at the time, so I went there and they're making fun of me. Like, of course you need glasses, Serge. You could never call out any of the names on the tickets because you can't read them. I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, part of my journey of getting into tech was finding out I needed glasses. But yeah, to bring it back to the subject at hand, that's not a path that I think works for everybody, but it was a lot of self-directed work and
Sorry,
study.
team order at the top with that donation.
Oh,
very nice.
Sweet.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, networking, talking to people, having an idea of what I wanted to get towards, and then trying to identify the steps to get into it. And then once I was in tech, I went from, because I worked for small startups, I went from working as a QA to being a project manager to leading teams and stuff like that. And now I'm a clown.
Yay.
More generally, you kind of had an idea of where you wanted to go, and then you broke it down into steps to get there.
I was just going to say the same thing. You break it down into steps, and then you complete the things that, especially if you need structure, this is a really nice way to do it. And then breaking it down into smaller chunks, and then completing those smaller chunks so that you can feel like, hey, I've accomplished something, I've learned something. I mean, if we're going off the tech example, it's really nice to have other people in the field that you can bounce ideas off of and work collaboratively with, so that you can get more practical experience. I'm sure that it's a similar thing for other careers as well. But like, figure out what you would like to do, and then figure out the steps to get there. It doesn't have to be fast, but like knowing where you have to go to get to where you want to be makes it a lot easier to actually get there and accomplish those small steps to get up to that point.
Ashton, when you're talking about other careers besides just tech, like that, in fact, I'm starting a new career now, but my path to doing events, and I've been able to do some pretty cool stuff working in the pop culture space. So I worked at New York Comic Con, I worked at Wizards of the Coast doing like Magic the Gathering events, esports at Blizzard, and I really wanted to do events, and I had this job that I hated, which was I was processing contracts for a house builder and like in Kirkland, Washington. And it was a super conservative company, and there were animal heads on the walls everywhere because like all of the male salesmen would go hunting together. Just wanted to really set the vibe that it was just like not the place I wanted to be. But I figured out where I wanted to go, which my dream is to work at New York Comic Con. Spoilers, I got there. But I just like mapped out what I wanted. You needed experience in events. I wanted to meet people. I did not know how to network. I figured that out by being bad at it until I learned that for me it was just being myself and seeing how I could help other people and then figuring it would eventually help me. But I spent at that time my money on vacation on volunteering for different conventions to get experience. So I worked as an enforcer at PAX. I worked at Emerald City Comic Con, Geek Girl Con, a bunch of conventions to get experience to then build that into that space. So it definitely was making a backwards map from where I wanted to be and then just trying to find opportunities to fill in that experience. And then there were parts where I realized, wow, I thought I was really into this, but I am not as excited about this part of it, and that's okay too. Like you may find that when you get to certain places, it's not what you thought, and that's fine. That's an important lesson that it took me longer than I think it needed to for me to learn that like, no, but this is my goal and I'm very focused. Oh my gosh, that's my favorite photo. Oh, wow.
So can I, sorry, let me jump in really quickly, some housework stuff. First off, Pixel Riffs, welcome Raiders. We just got a huge raid. We did that little throw out to this today on Desert Bus from Pixel Riffs, and you just stopped by with dang near 1,000 people.
Ooh, wow.
So welcome to a bunch of new eyes checking out Desert Bus for Hope.
Hey folks.
We've been working for 116 hours straight. We're very tired, but we've somehow managed to raise $668,000 US so far, and over $8 million lifetime. $9 million lifetime? I'm so tired.
Nine. But either way, it's impressive.
Yeah, so if you're new, you might have questions. We've got a lot of in-jokes, but you're more than welcome to be here, and thank you so much for stopping by. You're great. Also, we had a couple of very, very big, nice donations come in. Those were our silent auctions I just closed over, so in a little bit we will we'll introduce the new ones. You were going to say?
I was going to say, because I heard with the barista person, I wasn't sure, from Scotland, was saying that they needed more structure. And it dawned on me, as somebody who's done a lot of different jobs, including being a barista, that sometimes that's the work environment. So it may not be that that you're not comfortable in your job. It may be that the environment isn't really holding you in the way that you need it to, and that a lot of the time businesses are what they call, in language they say top down. So what that actually means is who runs it, who owns it, what are their value systems, how do they treat their employees. If I was an employer in that kind of situation and I knew that you had need for structure, I would try to structure your shifts in a way that would meet your needs. So it could be that you're not done being a barista, but maybe done at that location.
Yeah.
And so, it's to speak to what everybody else has said, because I really agree with this. Sometimes you just got to be a little bit brave, and you gotta.
It's the hardest part.
Yeah, you gotta just evaluate it and then take a little step. It doesn't have to be a big step, but a little step out of your comfort zone. Maybe go look at go into a place that you enjoy the service, and see if that's a place that fits for your needs, because good employers will try to help you be a successful employee. And so, and then in that way, it isn't really, like everybody else has said, it isn't necessarily the job that you do. It's what you contribute to whatever environment that you're in, right? Because, Serge probably didn't know he was going to end up on the internet and famous when all this started. Right,
famous internet
right, and Liz didn't know that events were going to be her wheelhouse and that she was just going to be so spectacular at that. Right, it's not until you try some of these on. So I guess I'm just saying that you don't get locked in. Like that one little place that's not quite working for you might just be that little place.
And if you aren't comfortable taking a step outside of your comfort zone, create more safety in your life so that you do feel comfortable taking a step outside your comfort zone.
Yeah, I remember. So I mean, this isn't related to like staying in the same job. It was Serge's transition from tech to being an entertainer. I remember you being like pretty stressed about that. Like you'd saved up a bunch of money. You're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna give this an honest shot. Yeah. And like if I remember correctly, you had like, I'm going to try this for X amount of months. I'm going to push really hard at it. If it doesn't work out, I'll
I mean, I
figure out my next
some
decision.
background to that too, because I think a question that comes up to a lot of people is like, hey, how do you? I want to be a content creator full time. How do I make that happen? And unfortunately, for the majority of people, the first thing you have to say is manage your expectations and make sure you have a goal when you get into it, because I think currently, like, you can picture an analogy in professional sports, like the people who make NBA versus everyone else, from the people who are hobbyists that want to get into it and stuff like that. It's really tough, and it slims down really, really quickly. And it's not to say that if you like basketball, you can't play if you're not NBA, right? Like, everybody can do it, but like the amount of people that can actually make that top tier money is very, very small. And the amount of like luck, it's luck. The fact that, I mean, I'm not NBA by any stretch, but the fact that I can pay my bills as a creator is huge. So go in with those sort of expectations. But my career path was, I was working in tech. I had a well-paying job. I had money in the bank. I had my bills were under control. And I was getting burnt out working in tech. So I did the thing that everybody does when they get burned out. I'm like, I'll start a 30-hour-a-week hobby on top of it, because I need a creative outlet. I need something to do there, which might not be super healthy. And this is where the luck comes in, because I've been lucky to be part of Desert Bus for 7 years prior to that. My work with Loading Ready Run, I had an audience already, so that when I went to do my first stream, I already had the numbers I needed to be a Twitch partner, which is ridiculous. Like, some people need, like, even members of Loading Ready Run have typically needed 3 to 4 years before they hit Twitch partner. Adam, Ben, stuff like that. Jordan was 3 or 4 years as well. I hit partner in 3 months.
Wow.
Which it's uncanny. I think Wheeler has me beat now, because Wheeler once again came with a lot of momentum, a lot of establishment, like a lot of presence on his name from Magic, and then like just shot it on that side. And then I saw I had this opportunity to go full-time as a content creator, and I had just left my job in tech. Loading Ready Run had offered me a position to be the producer for Road Quest.
Right.
So it's like, okay, I've got, like, here's a big not necessarily a big project, but like here's you have money in your bank account. I just hit Twitch partner. I'm not making great money at the time, but I'm like, all right, it's June. By January, how much money do I have to make? What kind of numbers, what kind of growth do I have to see as a creator if I want to make this my job, right? And there was the hard truth that I had to say to myself: if I don't hit these goals, I have to get a job, right? Like, there are benchmarks for performance. I was a project manager. I project managed my life at that point.
Produced, you're the producer in you, for sure.
Yeah, and I was very, very lucky that I hit that. It was January, and I've been lucky that it's grown. It's gotten to the point that I've actually hired my partner Joe to be my full-time manager.
Oh, wow.
So it's like a family business right now, and yeah, 4 years of full-time content creation. Wow. But that was, through a lot of serendipity, and then, like, all right, I'll try and make this work.
It's not awesome. It's not 100%. There's luck involved, but the
hard work.
It's not only luck. You're putting the work in, and you're putting yourself in positions to be able to get lucky.
Sure.
Exactly.
So you need to have the experience. You need to have the connections. You need to have this whole infrastructure in place to make you luckier, essentially.
You're boosting your luck stats.
Sure.
Yeah.
Very Machiavellian, right? Yeah. What is it? There's Fortuna and Virtue, whatever. There's the luck, and there's the knowledge to seize the luck.
Yeah.
There you go. I just saved you reading The Prince.
Artemis Huntress. Luck is the residue of design.
Oh.
That's
very nice.
I like that.
Very cool.
Yeah. We were speaking to Talia about this yesterday, how Desert Bus has become this referral network for jobs outside of Desert Bus. So you have all of this experience, like managing a giant event or working with a bunch of technology you don't usually work with, or coordinating a ton of prizes that you wouldn't either have the opportunity to do just because the event is so large. But we've all just volunteered for this event, and we all work together that we have the experience and can provide referrals for these jobs outside of this. So I'm not saying necessarily run a giant 7-day event. There are other issues that come with that.
Sure.
But yeah, like volunteering or like Liz was saying, going to events and getting that experience for the thing that you want to do. Once you figure out what that thing is, that helps a lot.
Erica in chat says, I've gotten at least 2 jobs based on my experience from Desert Bus.
There you go.
Yeah.
Great. Very good.
Some of the first job interviews I had in tech, I got my foot in the door because of Desert Bus experience. Because they're like, I don't want to, again, demean restaurants because people that work in food service get crapped on enough, but like it can, if you're talking about imposter syndrome, going into a tech interview, you're like, this is a software company and my job experience is making coffee for 8 years. Like you can really get in your own head and say you're not good enough. But having Desert Bus on my resume was like, no. Sure, I've made 8 million coffees. I've also raised $8 million for charity.
Damn.
Right?
Yeah.
9 now.
Yeah.
So that helped, right? It helped give me the confidence where otherwise I told myself, and this is imposter syndrome, told myself I wasn't good enough to deserve that job.
Right.
But those other experience helped.
It's so easy to only look at I got a job and I got paid for this, so that's the experience that counts. But like I mean, a lot of the people I know have hobbies that offer different skill sets, like even just what I have done to prepare for D&D. There's some story building and scheduling, like life stuff that often with those skills, it's something that I had taken for granted that actually is of value to someone else. So even if it wasn't something I was paid for.
And I'm going to hit the volunteer bandwagon because, you know, the more you volunteer into the situations that you want to be involved in, right? So whether that's a Desert Bus or it's something local charity, you know, whether it's, you know, whatever it is that works in your neighborhood, that the volunteering thing, although it doesn't generate you cash in your pocket, it generates you goodwill and it gives you good references. And it also is kind of a safe way to try something on, right? Because you can volunteer for a little while and be like, whoa, that's so not me, and pull out of it, right? Yeah. Whereas if you've been, you know, quit your job and hired to this new job, and now you're kind of like, oh, maybe I hadn't made the best choice here. You know, I really think there's a lot to be said for just volunteering ahead. Just to, you know, it's like going to the store and trying the pants on before you buy them, right? It's as simple as that.
Plus,
right?
you're meeting other people who are volunteering for the same thing that you are, so they are also interested in that, and they're also like the type of people who will volunteer. So you're meeting potential friends and coworkers who are interested in the same thing you are. Who are
and it's about being open to opportunities, right? Because opportunities show up in the darndest ways and places and corners of your life that you don't always know, right? So you gotta kind of, I don't think it's luck. I don't think it's luck.
I think skill and openness, but I think there sometimes is a piece of luck. I think with the hard work, I would have gotten to where I'm at, but I think I could have gotten there a little faster or a little slower depending on the luck and opportunity.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Because there's those opportunities. You need to put yourself in the right situation to find it, and you need to identify it and seize it, but like, there's still luck involved. Like, I was lucky that the coffee shop that I worked at was where Loading Ready Run frequents himself. I was lucky that I had a really good friend who introduced me to Cameron, who made me a volunteer for Desert Bus, right? And I said yes to those opportunities when Loading Ready Run was like, hey, can we film episode 1 of The Return of Friday Nights at your cafe? Would you want to be an extra in it? I said yes. But like...
And history was born.
That didn't happen to everybody. What if that wasn't my shift? What if I had stayed at a different cafe before that, you know? So like it's not all luck, but there's the workings of fate behind
No,
that,
I wasn't trying to challenge that luck was important.
No.
I just think that there's you don't have to just rely on luck.
I
guess that's what I was trying to say. There's stuff shows up. It's whether you're open to seeing.
I would say it's like 10% luck, 20% skill. What's the rest of it?
37%.
Concentrated power of will.
Yeah.
Hard work.
82.
and 17%
Right place, right time.
5% pleasure, 15% pain, and 100% reason to remember somebody's name. I can't.
All right.
I had one, sorry,
One last point.
really
So
quick.
wrap this up.
Yeah, I
Liz.
will acknowledge one last point. Because you said something about the pants, and I think that about if it doesn't fit, because this was a big thing for me is, like if pants don't fit, it's not that I am a failure because this is a bad fit for the job. Like, whether it be the job itself or the culture. I've had jobs where there were animal heads on the wall, which were not like a great for me. And it was hard not to be like, wow, I am failing at this because I'm bad and I'm wrong and I really needed, it was just a bad fit. And so there are some jobs, and it may have been like the skill set, I had the skill set and it was just like the wrong management team, and that you can just be like, okay, not a good fit, I'm moving on, and not have it like reflect your self-worth, which is a big piece of it.
There's not one
Really
way
good
to
point,
get to
Liz.
any goal.
Right.
And if something isn't working for you, you might actually be holding yourself back by trying to force through this one way, instead of like, okay, take a breath, reevaluate, let's see another path that we could go to get to the same end goal. Or maybe your end goal, you're like, I'm not really that interested in that anymore, and you want to pivot. Like, it's your life.
Exactly.
It's
Figure
now
out
or
what you
never.
want.
I
Right.
still
And,
don't know who I want to
what-
be when I grow up.
Did you say it's now or
It's
never?
now or never.
How dare you?